Good morning. This is the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake. The new way Wyoming wakes up.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Thursday, April 3rd. From the Cowboy State Daily Newsroom, I'm Wendy Core. The University of Wyoming is set to allow the concealed carry of firearms inside most of its buildings starting July 1st. But the policy for carrying guns outside will remain as it has been since 2016. Concealed or open carry are both allowed without a permit. Cowboy State Daily's Mark Hines reports that the UW Board of Trustees on Thursday voted unanimously to change the university's firearms policy to match legislation that was passed this year.
Carrying firearms has been more or less allowed outside on campus grounds, but what's going to change is inside the buildings. But don't get too excited, folks. That doesn't mean you can just strap on your 6-shooter and go running through UW campus. Inside the buildings, you're going to have to be over age 21, and you're going to have to be a concealed carry permit holder before you can take a concealed firearm anywhere inside on the UW campus. You can't just walk in with your open carry gun, and you need a permit.
Firearms will still be prohibited in UW laboratories or facilities containing volatile or explosive materials. They also won't be allowed in the UW Early Childhood Education Center, in campus healthcare facilities, or at sporting events where alcohol is being served. The search for missing Powell man Clint White was called off Tuesday evening after he was found dead in an undisclosed location. The 52-year-old was last seen on video surveillance leaving his home in the early morning hours of March 26th, carrying a checkered blanket and a generator. Cowboy State Daily's Jen Coker has been following this story.
All we know at this point is the cause of death is unknown and it's currently under investigation, and no foul play is suspected. I'm assuming that Park County Search and Rescue had a large role to play in finding him because Chief Ray was very complimentary and thankful of their efforts.
White had been missing for nearly a week as law enforcement and community volunteers searched for him. A Worland man accused of shooting his own dog 6 times this winter pleaded not guilty to animal cruelty and other criminal charges Wednesday in Washakie County District Court. 60-year-old Donald Dudley Wright shot Axel, the border collie mix, the night of January 13th at his home near Worland. And according to Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland, Wright is out of jail pending trial, but does have certain bond conditions.
Dudley Wright pleaded not guilty to all the charges against him. He's out on bond, and there was this argument about this other dog that keeps coming to his house. It's his dog, but it's been staying at the neighbor's house where the alleged victims of the stalking component of the case live. And he asked the judge, can't I move this dog to a friend's house so she quits coming over here and possibly getting me in trouble with my bond conditions? And the judge said, it's your dog. You can decide who cares for your dog. Since it's an animal cruelty case, there's a condition to have no pets. And so that's why this debate about where this dog is going to stay came about.
Axel was shot in the leg, shoulder, jaw, and chest, and he had a plate and other hardware installed in his jaw. The 4 bullets that his veterinarian chose to leave in his body are there to stay. I'll be back with more news right after this.
When it comes to building and managing your wealth, our Hilltop Bank Trust and Wealth Management team will help you determine the best route for your specific journey, utilizing our expertise and resources. Visit one of our locations in Casper, Cheyenne, or Gillette to learn more about Hilltop's financial planning, investments, and trust services. We're here to build your confidence about your financial future. Trust and wealth management products are not FDIC insured, have no bank guarantee, and may lose value.
Tariffs on cars and parts made in Canada and Mexico went into effect Wednesday, leaving a vanishing window to beat price jumps. Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean spoke to Wyoming auto dealers and buyers, some of whom are traveling across multiple states to find what they want before prices increase.
Analysts have said it could add $10,000 to the price of a vehicle. I mean, it's not across the board either, Wendy. So it's a little difficult at this time to parse what's going to be more expensive. Like one example, I think is the Chevy Silverado is like 36%, 32%, something like that, made in Mexico and Canada. So that's the part that would get a tariff, right? But then say Honda, I think is more like a 70 to 80% made in America. So that's going to have a smaller impact. And also complicating that, it doesn't source any parts from Mexico or Canada. So its parts maybe won't have any impact impact.
After tariffs hit prices, consumers who still need a vehicle will need to do more shopping around. And cars that have a higher percentage of American-made parts will probably be the best values going forward. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Wendy Core for Cowboy State Daily.
Christopher Holton. I'm very active. It was a Saturday morning. Normally I go for my normal walk.
With no warning, Chris suffered a near-fatal heart attack. But thankfully, Brian Buckley, a bystander, saw him collapse and rushed to help.
He did this big gasp for air and then just stopped. It's like I went into autopilot. It's like all that training I did back in the day around CPR just magically came out of nowhere.
Because of the CPR training that Brian received, Chris did make it and didn't die on the trail that day. CPR training provided by the American Heart Association.
Looking at your hands, these two hands could save a life.
Being a father, you want to be around. You want to be around for your kids.
Heart disease is America's #1 killer. To learn more about how the American Heart Association helps save lives, go to helpheart.org.
Well, good morning and welcome back to the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. I'm Shireen filling in for Jake. Glad to be here on the 3rd of April as we move in to the first weekend of April, and mentioned before this week about things being just a little bit cooler in many areas this week, and then next week we'll be dancing with 80 by the end of the week and warmer temperatures across Wyoming. But I've got a lot of outdoor stuff I need to get done. And so for me, Sunday looks like the best day coming up this weekend for weather. But some folks that are traveling, you might want to check that YDOT 511 app or road conditions, or stay in the know with Mr. Donde himself, because here's the deal. Some areas of Wyoming will be experiencing some more winter-like conditions. Some areas might be experiencing more wet and spring-like conditions, but there's definitely some storm systems that are moving through, and I think Denver's expected to get impacted for their opening day for Rockies baseball on Friday. I think they're expecting the low 40s and potentially some snow. So speaking of weather, let's get to it with Mr. Donde.
It's a Thursday. It's the 3rd day of April, 2025. Your Day Weather podcast brought to you by ConverseCountyTourism.com. Feel the energy of Converse County. Explore Douglas's Railroad Heritage, Ayers Natural Bridge, and the Jackalope Legend. Glen Rock boasts scenic trails, dinosaur history, and small town charm. Plan your visit at ConverseCountyTourism.com. Well, more like winter than spring, as we mentioned yesterday, and you're going to have some views like this with some fresh snow in the mountains and still some very chilly conditions. Even for early April, temperatures are going to be well below average. We have two troughs of low pressure working together. Now, if both of these had merged, we'd end up with a very intense storm, but they're kind of staying separate, but they will work together to keep temperatures well below average all across the west through the weekend. Some areas of rain and snow will be noted. We are going to get a little bit of needed precipitation for folks in New Mexico and southern Colorado and Kansas, but there'll be pockets elsewhere of rain and snow here over the next 48 to 72 hours. Then we transition into a break in the weather. High pressure starts to come back in, and we will see warmer temperatures. You'll start to notice it getting a little warmer Sunday. It'll still be a little cool. But Monday through Friday and next week will warm up. However, there will be a couple of little weather systems kind of crashing through the high pressure ridge. So a little bit of scattered shower and thunderstorm activity next week will still be possible at times. But it'll be more of a high pressure dominated pattern before things begin to change after next week, probably late in the following weekend. Now there's a springtime shot. Got the tractor ready to go and fresh snow on the east slopes of the Wind River Mountains there. And look at those clouds there in the background. The atmosphere the clouds, the sky will tell you a lot in terms of the time of year that we're at. And boy, there's a great picture that really sums it all up. Well, is this picture here from Owens Valley, California. And then a lot of gray, dark clouds with virga there and some shower activity across the high plains yesterday. And then we have those puffy clouds that are starting to grow vertically. Now, Sabine had some fun here. What does that look like to you? Everybody can look at a cloud and see something different, but sure looks like a dog there to me, doesn't it? Thanks for putting that together and sending that in. That's always fun. It's always fun to look up and see what you can see. Another spectacular shot of those deep blue western skies with a wannabe thunderstorm trying to build there along the Wind River Mountains yesterday out of Pinedale. So you can still see a lot of snow on the ground, a lot of snow still on the mountain slopes, and there'll be plenty more with the cold weather here over the next 2 or 3 days. The satellite photo shows well the two systems. We have a swirl of clouds now, a little bit more organization in the Four Corners area here, but it's not very expansive. However, the low here and the counterclockwise circulation around it will bring some of this moisture in those clouds that you see northward, and this is going to be producing some rain and snow up here out ahead of it later today and tonight. Here's the low that's been moving through here over the last couple of days, and then here's another trough of low pressure right here. That low up here and this low right here will stay apart. But this one will swing through this way. This one's going to come in right in behind it over the next 48 hours. And you'll see that well here on the map. Surface map still shows a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity and heavy rain where we highlighted those areas yesterday from northeast Texas into the Ohio Valley. When we take a look at the pattern by noon today, you can see where the two lows are that we just showed you on the satellite imagery. Notice the flow of air out of Canada. It's coming deep south into the western United States. So that's why it's going to be so cool here over the next few days. This system will bring moisture upwards today. This wave right here is going to bring moisture to Montana and areas to the north later today and tonight, then push that cold air south. So the first wave of precipitation through tonight, this is from that low we showed you up into Canada. That's going to produce Montana, some snow and rain into North Dakota, far northern areas of Wyoming. While that wave that's down here is bringing this axis of moisture here today. And then we also have showers and thunderstorms developing down there in Texas. So we've got these two areas. They're going to stay apart, not merging. But we will see some wintry weather in these darker green areas, the gray areas with some showers. And you're going to see an axis of heavier moisture, rain and snow over a narrow band along the Kansas-Colorado border into southwest Nebraska here. So this basically gets us through tonight. By noon tomorrow, we have that cold front from that wave up there coming through. This system kind of stalls out a little bit and slows down. So we're still in a very cold regime here underneath that trough. That's going to produce moisture like this Friday into Saturday morning. So more moisture for North and South Dakota. There's going to be a little axis of snow up here into central Wyoming and along the Pine Ridge. And then we're going to see that heavier moisture in far southern Colorado and northern New Mexico forming late Friday into Saturday as that low will be hanging down there for a little bit longer. You put both together. This is through Sunday night. You can see if you put them both together, this is where the precipitation is going to be. Heaviest down south, down here where that upper level low is going to be a little bit closer. Just kind of smatterings of precipitation and snow elsewhere in the cold. And speaking of cold, these are the temperature anomalies through Monday. So you can see how cold the western United States and central United States will be relative to average. So April off to a really cold start. However, not all bad news. By early next week, we have a high pressure ridge trying to build back up into the Rockies. So this will allow some warmer temperatures to move in, but it's a little bit messy. There's a little bit of a wave right here that'll crash the party in the Pacific Northwest as we get into late Sunday and Monday, bringing rain and snow there. This wave will kind of take the top of this ridge off. So as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, we'll probably have a little bit of shower and thunderstorm activity because of this wave. across the central and northern Rockies. But right behind it, high pressure will rebuild again. So this is by Friday of next week. So as we get into next week, it's not going to be as warm or as nice as that period of weather we had there in late March, but it will be warmer. It will be more spring-like. We'll then await this next low coming in, and whether or not it comes in one piece or several pieces like what we've just experienced, we'll have to wait and see. But the next round of unsettled, colder, wet weather into the west is likely going to be right after this period of time, right after the 11th, probably as we get into the latter half of the weekend after this one, and then that will probably give us another extended period of cooler, unsettled, and hopefully, in many areas, wet weather again. Have yourself a great Thursday. We'll have more for you tomorrow.
I always learn so much from Don. Do you as well? Every time I'm watching his weather, I'm always fascinated and definitely interested in that cold front that will be moving in potentially after we get that warm front that comes in. I know I'm looking forward to a little bit warmer weather, although I am a huge fan of us getting as much precip as we can. There are farmers in Wyoming fearing for potential devastation from drought. Drought is always an issue with farmers. Water is just such a precious commodity that there can be a lot of rain and it still can be an issue. So the more rain, the better. Rain is a good thing. I think Luke Bryan said that. Good morning. Hey, I hope you're having a great start to your morning. I'm Shireen filling in for Jake. It's the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show.
Wyoming is a big state. There's so much ground to cover, so many stories to tell. But the Cowboy State Daily News team is up to the challenge. I'm Wendy Core, host of Cowboy State Daily Video News. Whether it's politics in Cheyenne, energy issues in the Powder River Basin, or grizzlies in Yellowstone, our talented crew of experienced journalists are out there finding and telling the stories that matter. What's the best restaurant in DuBois? Renee Jean checks it out. What's the most recent Supreme Court decision mean to our everyday lives? Claire McFarland explains. How is the upcoming elk hunting season shaping up? Mark Hines lets us know. Every day, I talk to the reporters who are covering the topics, issues, and people that are important to Wyomingites, and in our daily newscast, I bring you those stories. Tune into the Cowboy State Daily video newscast every morning, only on CowboyStateDaily.com. This is the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Gracie and Pedro might not get along so well.
You're standing on my tail.
But there's one thing they agree on. There's a right seat for everyone.
Oh, that's the good stuff.
Whether you're a dog,
Hold on, Pooch.
a cat, a fish, or a rat.
And I'm a ferret.
Be sure to travel safe.
How can you be so sure?
I'm absolutely positive.
On your next adventure, make sure your children are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
So I wanted to talk with you and your mom today, Lily, because some people at school have noticed changes going on with you, and we're concerned.
Like what? Who?
Some of your friends, teachers. It sounds like you've lost interest in a lot of things lately. You're hanging with new friends.
So,
individually, maybe those things are no big deal, but taken together, and then the incident the other day, you were with Derek when he was caught selling marijuana.
yeah, he was selling it.
Honey, we know. But we care about you and want to know what's going on.
That's right. We just want to understand better and see how we might help. And if weed is a part of it, we just want to make sure you understand the negative consequences for someone your age, the physical and mental health effects, the poor decision making, and the confusing legal aspects these days. So what do you say? Can we talk?
For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Come on! Go, Diane! Yeah, keep it going! Yeah! Go, honey!
If you love them enough to drive an hour to cheer them on as they get beat 11-0 in the rain, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Good to be back as we inch closer to the weekend. I'm Shireen Herrera filling in for Jake on the Cowboy State Daily morning show, cowboystatedaily.com. Don't forget to subscribe to that newsletter up in the right corner, and you get all the news you need to know every single day on your email and kind of a collage and a montage of what they have going on. I like to consider them cliff notes for Cowboy State Daily. I'm Shireen filling in for Jake. Glad to be here on another great day. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to some awesome guests. We have Senator Lummis that's coming on this morning and some other fantastic guests with Cowboy State Daily. And we have some folks with Central Wyoming College that will be back on. So looking forward to that and looking forward to the weekend too. I know a lot of folks will be traveling. So make sure you're watching some roads. I was checking that YDOT 511 app here just a moment ago. It looked pretty foggy in Glen Rock and the Douglas area and some adverse conditions there. Also looking at the route from Shoshone to Casper, Powder River is experiencing some slick conditions, it looks like. And it says some foggy conditions. So I think that's kind of an issue in some areas is that fog. Otherwise, most of the roads I've been kind of peeking at look fairly decent, but always check that YDOT 511 app. That's my go-to when I travel the roads in Wyoming. And I love the conditions aspect of it, but I'm really into the webcams because I can see the conditions in real time when it comes to traveling in the state of Wyoming. Yesterday, I asked you for some advice, and boy, did you help me out when it comes to wedding advice. And little did I know how interested people are in weddings. But I think, honestly, it's not being interested in weddings. People in Wyoming and the Rocky Mountain region in general just always want to help each other out. That's something I just know to be true. And so even men will help me out with my, like Bill, who wrote in and said that something that would be memorable as far as a tradition goes would be personally written vows, long letter style. Now, I don't want my ceremony to go too long. I want the quickest ceremony possible so we can get ready to party and get to pictures. And so I don't want the long letter style as far as having to read the long letter. But somebody else, Leah, sent a message about the fact that she's officiated some weddings and she would have them write long letters and then lock them in a box, and they would open them if they ever had a big fight and then read the letters to each other. So maybe that's something that I can do that Bill mentioned was a memorable tradition that he maybe experienced at a wedding on personally written vows, long letter style. But here's the deal. I don't want the ceremony to go too long, so the vows kind of have to be a little shorter, right? And I don't really worry about Chad. He'll be fine, and his vows will be short. I worry about mine. That'll be like 10 pages long. So I have to make sure that I'm keeping mine down just a little bit. But Bill said that a great memorable wedding tradition for him, personally written vows, long letter style. Leah had mentioned writing letters to each other and then locking them up in a box until you have your first really big fight, which I think is a great one. Heather Osborne said it's a little old fashioned, but have the guests fill out an address book. And then that way you have the list, not only for the thank yous, which everybody always wants, but she also mentioned for your future Christmas cards and letters, you'll have all of their details. And so I wasn't going to do an address book. I was just going to have people write their names and then try to get them thank you notes either digitally or in the mail. But an address book is a great idea because I didn't think about all the Christmas cards I'll want to send out after we're married with the dogs and the cuteness. And so that's a great idea. Having folks fill out an address book was a memorable tradition that Heather reached out to me on. So that was nice hearing from folks. Like I mentioned, I just kind of said that I needed some help with some wedding stuff. And I'm just curious on if there was a memorable tradition or non-tradition, maybe something unorthodox that you experienced or saw at a wedding and it, stood out to you. And folks totally reached out and helped out. And also, I found out there's a little wedding expo happening here in central Wyoming this weekend. Now, I'm not getting married in the state, unfortunately, because the only month we can get married and have time is February. And nobody wants to get married in Wyoming in February, including this gal right here. And so we're going out of the state somewhere warm. But there's a wedding expo this weekend in central Wyoming. And one of my friends reached out about it, and I thought, well, maybe I should actually go. I can't really utilize the services here that some folks would have, but it might give me some great ideas. And so I might check out that wedding expo this weekend. Another great piece of advice I received, thanks to you folks, is something I really want to do, but I don't want to cry too much. But Teresa reached out that after her and her husband were married, when they were done with the ceremony, instead of rushing off to get pictures and doing all that stuff, she mentioned that her and her new husband took 15 minutes and stepped aside and just kind of sat together, prayed, whatever, and were able to be husband and wife together for the 15 minutes by themselves. Now, that's too long for me because I don't want to bawl my eyes out, because I know if Chad and I get together by ourselves after we're married, I'm going to be just a mess. And so I do like the idea, and maybe 5 minutes, but we also have kind of a crunch on how we're doing photos, and we have to travel to get the photos from the venue. So it's a little bit of a chaotic schedule, but I really like that. She said, it's so chaotic, like I'm mentioning right now. She said that taking the few moments together by themselves was her favorite moment from her wedding. And her saying that to me made me really think that that might be a great idea for me and a great idea for the wedding, to carve out those 10 or 15 minutes, because it is about you, it's your day, right? But also you have all these guests there. And so you always battle. And that's just a common battle with weddings and wedding planning, is you want to be there. You want to make sure the guests are having a good time. But Teresa said her favorite tradition from her wedding was taking the 10 or 15 minutes beforehand and or after the ceremony, before all the partying, to be just husband and wife together and talk and relax for a moment, decompress a little bit. I feel like that's something I might need. Maybe I won't cry, and maybe I'll just I'll be perfect if I have 5 minutes afterwards. So I'm definitely taking that one from Teresa too. And then Cassandra said the chicken dance and the DJ is most important. So I appreciate the help on some wedding planning. Getting free wedding advice from you folks is the best, but I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I DJ'd weddings for a long time, but it wasn't something that I knew as far as the whole wedding planning process goes. So I won't bore you anymore this morning with maybe later on with wedding chatter, but I just appreciate it. And, when you're planning a wedding, and I don't know, it's just so chaotic and you need so much advice, and there's a million things that run through your head that you just can't quite put your finger on sometimes. So it really is nice. And that's what I love, Cowboy State Daily, the morning show, asking you, because you'll comment on the Facebook page, YouTube, or send a message to Cowboy State Daily, and it really helps me out. And then also just social media. I really like social media for folks that are inquisitive, are asking questions, maybe need some help or advice. And so appreciate you being here this morning. Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. I'm Shireen, filling in for Jake.
It's the Rodeo Roadshow on the Western Ag Network. I'm Will Rasmussen. Today, two-time world champion tie-down roper Riley Webb from Denton, Texas joins us. He's gone to the NFR 3 different times, won 2 world titles. He's only 21 years old. One of the huge influences in his career, he notes, Clint Cooper, the son of the great Roy Cooper. We'll talk about that influence on the Roadshow coming up next.
If you're looking for this country's best bulls, then head to Midland Bull Test in Columbus, Montana for the final sort bull sale, April 3rd and 4th. At Midland Bull Test, they do one thing, bulls. You'll find America's largest source of efficiency-tested bulls, representing the top 5% from over 102 nationwide consigners. On Thursday, Salier, Gilbey, Simmental, Limflex, South Devon, and Red Angus Sale. And on Friday, Black Angus. Visit MidlandBullTest.com for performance data, sale catalogs, and to register to bid online.
You're invited to Stetsons and Stilettos May 2nd at Swift River Ranch.
the fundraising event for the Nile Foundation that provides scholarships to students pursuing careers in agriculture. Stetsons and Stilettos is reimagined this year with a more casual atmosphere. Enjoy the auctions, the Kentucky Derby Calcutta, and live music and dancing to Exit 53. Buy a table, buy a ticket, or pay a cover charge to enjoy the band, but do come and support the Nile Foundation's scholarship program. Purchase tickets online at thenile.org.
I read somewhere that Clint Cooper was a big influencer, the oldest son of Super Looper Roy Cooper and the oldest of the three Cooper brothers, including Older and Tough and Cliff and that. Talk about your relationship there.
Yes, sir. So my mom and dad helped Mr. Roy put on his Junior Open forever. And so we live 30 minutes from Decatur, from Clint and Roy and everybody over there. So yeah, grew up roping a little bit with Clint, and he helped me out and helped me get started with the horse to get going. So yeah, he's been a huge help with getting me started at a young age and getting me rolling.
I talked to Joe Beaver. He's quite a fan of yours as well.
Yes, sir. It's a great guy. It's pretty cool getting, growing up, going to, the Roy Cooper's roping, the Joe Beaver's ropings, all the great legends of the sport, and get to go to their ropings and get to, see them and grow up around them and get to talk to them a little bit.
Riley Webb is amazing. 21 years old, two-time world champion, probably a future Hall of Famer as well. From Denton, Texas. By the way, he's number 1 in the world this week in the tie-down roping after some huge wins this winter. On the Rodeo Roadshow, I'm Will Rasmussen on the Western Ag Network.
It's time to take a look at